So I started to think, what can I do? I can help teachers who can't be here. So you guys are really the wrong audience. Because the whole idea behind this, when I started it, is it's teachers teaching teachers. And I thought about all the teachers who don't have the money to come to conferences, who don't have the benefit of getting good teacher development, but deserve it. So, I thought, I said, TED Talks are really popular, but that's been done. And then I thought about, okay, you have that Pachacucha thing, you do things quickly, been done. And I was actually making juice in the blender, and I said, how about if I put it all together? And I came up with EFLtalks. And the whole idea was, well, let me show you. Again, teachers teaching teachers. So I hope by the end of this, 50% of you are going to join me on this little journey. I now have a phone call. See, people are signing up already. Okay. We now have, in the just over 3 years since I started this, we've got a lot of EFL talkers. Now, you probably can't recognize many faces because it's small, but there's a lot of big names there, including one famous one in the room. But the idea was to do 10 and 10. And what this is they have to do their speech in 10 minutes using only 10 PowerPoint slides. Now, you're all teachers. How difficult is it to get a teacher to talk in only 10 minutes? Impossible, right. And it was funny because one of our first hosts, Gavin Dudney, made a great statement that's always stuck with me. If you can't make 1 point in 10 minutes, perhaps you shouldn't be making it. And this was what we've done in the 3 years since I started this. You can see that we're all over the place. And you guys are up in the corner now. We've done Latin America, all over the world. We've done something for Ayatefel and Tisel when they did their joint. We have sound and running people. And the best part is I was nominated for an Elton Award. Yay! And I lost to a book about technology. So anyway, but it was great to be recognized. And you can see everything if you go to the website that I gave you. All the videos are available for free and always will be on our YouTube channel. Okay? So there's good stuff for everybody, but also tell other teachers. It's a great resource. I told you we have EFLtalks on Facebook. We have EFLTD. Hope you join us. It's free. Leave advice, take advice. These are the numbers so far. We've had over 200 EFL talkers. There's over 300 videos. We've had over 20 online events. We have speakers from over 200 countries. This is the second live event that we've actually done because I do these online. So it's convenient for everybody. So if you have nothing to do for a weekend, we have over 50 hours of teacher development videos. We hope you watch them all. And to date, we've had over 500,000 viewers. So it's starting to catch on, but it's not big enough yet for me because I need more teachers. And I need live EFL talkers. The whole idea of this live is I wanted to bring you people to come up on the stage and do this live, like I did in Brazil. The problem is, I didn't know anybody here. So what I did is, through technology, I'm bringing them to you today, if these guys figure out what they're doing and get me sound. So, any questions so far while we're waiting for them? Find you in the picture. It's in alphabetical order. Where's Waldo? I see you. Okay. So we did that was, yours was what? That was when we did Middle East. And we had Rhonda spoke, right? Rhonda, yeah. So I want you guys to join in. And remember, you're sitting there thinking, oh, well, I'm not the same quality. I have people here that are first-year teachers. Who's been teaching more than 20 years? Raise your hand. I'm not going to go up. Let me go down. I'm quite surprised, sir. You look awfully young. Who's been teaching less than 10 years? Less than 5 years? Less than a year? Who's been told they can't teach at all? That's why I do this. Gets me out of teaching. I have some from people who are brand new teachers, because remember, if you're 20 years into the job, 30 years into the job, think of how much you've actually forgotten. Some days I forget my name. That's why I love name tags. So, getting different perspectives from different people. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a PhD. So, I want you guys to join in. The whole idea, what I'm doing with this is free. It will always be free. I want it free to every teacher in the world to be able to access. And that's exactly what I pay my speakers, nothing. And they do it freely because we're helping each other. I want to leave some kind of legacy for the teachers of the future. Think of those students who are studying now. I may end up talking a whole hour and you're not going to see any speeches, but, So, here's the thing. It started off for me because I had a Facebook group for English students, because they were always sending me things, asking me silly questions like, do you use is or are after the word he? You know, basic stuff. So I started a Facebook group for English students. I was surprised to find out that 75% of the people that are on there's about 14,000 right now, were actually up-and-coming English teachers looking to improve their English. I was amazed, and I was like, wait a minute, you're improving your English? Now, I was teaching in Brazil for 16 years, so I understand this because the average teacher in Brazil is B2 level. So I understood well. And then people would ask me a question and say, well, how do I deal with this in the classroom? And I said to a student one day, actually from Morocco, they were like, how do I deal with the stuff that they already know and work with that? Is there a way? And I said, sure, scaffolding. You all know scaffolding, right? They're like, what's that? This was a third-year university student in Morocco studying to be a teacher and never heard of scaffolding. And Scott and I were just talking outside. We take for granted sometimes the things that we've learned and the things that new teachers don't. This is the way that we can get to those teachers, because they can't be here. But I need you. Who's joining? All right, somebody take a picture and get their names afterwards. Okay? Are we going to have sound?
I hope you meant joining the link, not on the stage with you.
No, not this time. Next time.
Can you put the slide back up that had all the addresses?
Oh, sure.
I'll share with
This one?
Yeah.
Yep, this is the,
The other one, actually.
yep. This is the teachers group for teacher development. I'm only letting teachers in this group. So I don't get the ones asking the silly
And you
questions.
have another one.
Yep. This is the main EFLtalks page on Facebook. And all of this, if you go to EFLtalks.com, you can get to everything. The videos, the Facebook groups, the emails, everything will be through there. Now, question? Oh. You know, people are always like, well, why do you do this? It's free and everything else. It's because I can't teach, so I have to do something. No, the idea behind this is we're hoping someday we will get sponsorship. We'll be able to make it explode. But until that happens, it's a grassroots thing. So it's us. It's just teachers. And the amazing thing is the network that I have built up, that I can basically go on Facebook and a perfect stranger, like Dr. Christine, I didn't know Dr. Christine before, I sent her a Facebook message and she became an EFL talker. And this is the thing, we want to help other people, okay? Think of the people that helped you. Somebody helped me. All right. Any questions so far? Please. Yes.
I just have a question about the setting, we have the e-village this weekend, and can you talk a little bit about how you went about setting up this, for people who might be interested in doing their own thing?
Okay, great question. What I did with this is I've been teaching online since about 2002. And I used, in the early days, all sorts of things. For a while I used WizIQ. And because it was relatively inexpensive, I used it for my classes. It was actually the first ones that had working breakout rooms. That's why I used it. And fortunately for me, a very good friend of mine, Nellie Deutsch, works for WizIQ, and I use hers so I can bring 5,000 people into a room now. And what I did is we connect. I set up no different than a Zoom room or a Click meeting room. We're actually setting up a Zoom room to do this today. Zoom will cost more money to make bigger rooms. But what I found is doing a live thing like this, I can connect with each one of you. So I tell you we're doing an event. We're doing EFL Talks Q8, okay? And then what we do is we set it up, we advertise it, you send me your slides, I have all the slides resident, we make sure the technology's working, that you have a mic and a camera, and I say, okay, meet me online 4 o'clock on Sunday. And then what we do is we just go through order, I turn on your camera, you do your 10 minutes, move your slides, and then bing, on to the next speaker. And it's great because I get to cut people off after 10 minutes. It's fun. But this is the idea behind it. And I was actually a little disappointed when I first started it because my very first one, I only had a couple hundred people. And I said, all that work, it was a 10-hour marathon. 10 minutes for 10 hours. How many speakers did I have? Quick. 50. Yeah, we have this expression in America, go big or go home. I decided for my first webinar to do 50 speakers around the world in 10 hours straight. I was sick for 2 weeks after, but it was well worth it. And the thing that's good about this is I saw 200 people. I said, okay, great. Nobody knew who I was. I got 200 people watching. And as we started to do more, we saw that numbers dropped a little bit. And I was kind of disappointed, and I said, oh, the numbers are down. Until I looked at the hits and the views to see that 200 watched live, 10,000 watched the next week. So what I've done is I've shifted. What I care about now is the recording, really. It's not so much the live event. The live event is a way of having fun and drawing some crowd, getting all you organized, and getting these recorded, because then we put them on the site. So, that help? Build your network and chase them down. That's how you do it. The technology is relatively easy these days. Who's working online or has ever done a webinar? Not very many. I'm surprised. Do you all teach in schools? Pretty much? Interesting. Nothing? Nothing. More questions, please. So, what kind of subject matter do you think you could help us with? Any ideas? I have a whole list.
I can have a view of the people, like what people see.
Well, it's interesting because we've done 2 of these, and we're actually doing another one right now with Russia, Belgium, and myself. We're doing a question and answer one. We're collecting the questions, what subjects do you want to hear, and then we're finding a speaker to answer the question. So we've done this a few times. Does that answer? I have this thing that I'm trying to build. It was, I had a conversation with David Crystal a few years ago, and his dream was always to come up with a living dictionary from the whole world. And he said, somebody needs to do this someday, but I'm not going to do it. And I thought, you know what? How about a teacher's video glossary? That every single teaching term that we hear all the time, like scaffolding, like what? Give me some terms.
Integration.
Engagement.
Blended learning.
Yes. Okay, remember what you just yelled out? That's what your session's going to be on. Deal? This is the idea. I would love to build a complete video glossary. Can you put the couch over here later?
Actually, I had a different question. Do you
Yeah.
ever have where someone has, done their talk, but you didn't think it was good enough, where you don't accept it, or you maybe their accent was so difficult to understand, or whatever reason?
Yes, we've had a few of them like that. I've done a few options for trying to re-record it, trying to redo it, and there's some that I just won't publish. And unfortunately, we've had to start this vetting process, and I was warned about this. It was Dudley Reynolds said, "Are you crazy?" The old TESOL president, and he said, at one point you're going to have to start editing out things, and we have. There are some I just won't put up.
So do you just say to them, we're sorry, we can't use your, or you
Yeah.
just don't respond?
Yeah, well, it's just like what I usually say is, oh, sorry, I went off the tape. No, I say what we're doing is we're taking these from everybody, and the best ones will go up on the site.
Very different.
You know, that's all I can say. I don't want to tell somebody they've done a bad one. Oh.
No, I didn't know if maybe you might say, well, you're, I don't know, it was too boring, or you couldn't understand anything you said, or.
It does happen.
To maybe like mentor them so they can do a better job.
Yeah, and this is another thing that we were starting is I made the offer to anybody who wants to be an EFL talker that I will help train them to be a presenter. And, some people, you may be too shy and you've always wanted to do presentations. I teach that. My background is business, it's not teaching, so I fell into this by accident. So I help people with presentations. So I would love to help a teacher become a talker. I've actually done it with a few. And I was very happy because one of my students in Poland from 3 years ago, who couldn't even say hello, just won 3 awards for her presentations that she did in Poland.
Excellent. That's
So-
excellent.
I like working with this stuff, much better than working with technology.
Doesn't always work.
Yes, and make sure you come to the panel debate about technology to hear what I have to say about it on Saturday. You don't want to miss it. 4 o'clock on.
It's the last session, actually, Saturday.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, and I apologize for this. But what I want to do is the next time we do this, I want to come here and I want a live show, a real live show. And what we decided, we had a live show on stage in Brazil, where I taught for years, and we had 10 great speakers on stage, 10 minutes each. It was freezing outside, and we were kind of outside, so we've changed it. We're going to do all these recordings are 10 and 10. Our live things will now be 5 live. So we'll do 5 minutes, 5 slides, live on stage. So we hope you join us. And
Right we go.
it's working. Okay. So, without further ado, what I'd like to do is, let's try a couple of the videos. Now, the people that volunteered, I got some people from the IHFL TSIG. I'm with the IHFL BSIG. I'm on the committee for the web and online team. We got some of the LT SIG, which is the Learning Technology SIG, and we've got a couple guys from Virginia Tech. So this was supposed to be on Saturday. It got switched to Thursday, and unfortunately everybody's teaching. So I have recordings. Just pretend they're live on, okay? Ready?
We got great imagination.
Oh, okay, good. I love a good imagination. All right. Let's see.
Hello, everyone. I'm so sorry I cannot be there with you, but I'm happy to be presenting for 10 by 10 from Thessaloniki, Greece. Thank you, Rob, for the invitation. So today, no answers, just questions. We are so lucky as educators. This is actually what my first audio looked like when I was a student. That's how I was exposed to English language. And the tapes were so expensive. Yes, they were tapes. Then classrooms became a bliss, a place where there was so much technology. And there was that time when we could still remember what computer assisted language learning looked like and how important computer labs were. But all of a sudden, that notion changed. And the reason it changed was because in the first instance, that of call, technology was kind of an accessory, a lovely bracelet. I could wear it. I could take my students there. I didn't have to be there all the time. Whereas now, with all those interactive whiteboards, the softwares, the apps, there is no question we cannot answer. There is nothing we do not have access to. Have we paid the price for this? Who knows? Perhaps we have, perhaps we will. So in the near future, this transformation is going to be even more pronounced because learning is going to be more gamified, more blended. We are going to have open learning spaces instead of classrooms, and classrooms do not change just because somebody, an architect or a trainer, thought of a clever idea. They change because the methodology behind the teaching changes. So what are we looking for? What do we plan on getting through those open learning spaces? More diverse learning spaces, more diverse learning environments focused on the students and their needs, more differentiated learning depending on their needs, and also, in a way, more attention to the individual student. At the same time, though, nothing good happens without something bad. So there is a debate raging. Everybody's life is too screen-based. Is our education too screen-based as well? Do novice teachers, teachers who were born within the 90s or even a little bit before that, and they never saw that Sanyo tape recorder I showed, do they know that we had tape recorders and timers, that we had to write down what material we needed for fear of forgetting before an observation? Do we still see the boundaries between the material and the teacher? And do novice teachers and experienced one realize that linear teaching is the same when we click buttons on a software and the same when we try to go from one exercise to the other? Have we lost agency? Do we still remember that great apps and great websites do not create inimitable learning experiences? Human beings do. Can we also remember that the transformational use of the pre-existing through any kind of remix literacy does not mean that we copy-paste. It means that we add our own little individual change. We are all prosumers. So I feel that much like our students who lose interest when they have become producers of digital material, and this stops being just for fun, teachers are the same. They do not want to become prosumers, they want to become consumers who sort of feel that the software they use is the extension of their own teaching abilities. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. So this is a short SWOT analysis to see what we have gained through this paradigm shift. We have more diverse learning environments. And also for me, those open learning spaces are the end of a myth, the end of full frontal teacher-centered learning and teaching. Learning becomes more targeted and also more realistically broken into, or rather not even broken. There is no classwork and homework. There is just learning, and we learn through different media at different times, but this does not mean that there is a rule that says what constitutes classwork and what constitutes homework. Whereas weaknesses are concerned, my question is, are we ready for it? Do we all understand? And I'm not talking about tech-savvy teachers and people who do not like technology. Have we understood the demands of technology on us? And have we conceptualized the changes needed in our lesson planning? Regarding our opportunities, learning and teaching will not be as linear and as predictable if our lesson plan is not linear and predictable. We can have learning that is richer in context, asynchronous, and also more diverse and diversified so that it can last longer, probably our lifetimes. And I feel that if teachers kind of follow this, then will be less need for class management because learners are going to be so engaged in that. Therefore, what I'm really worried about is whether the fears about those toxic screen-based environments might come true and ruin what I described before. Is there any chance we're going to lock our students behind screens? Teachers will be trapped in the creativity of the materials designer and forget about their own creativity and what they can do with their material, thus leading to the end of agency. Threats are still human beings behind learning and teaching. Are teachers, the world around, ready to survive without any kind of technology? And what about our students? So even if I'm willing to teach without that lovely whiteboard, what will my students do today? Will they start yawning, feel bored? Is this the show part of my appeal to my students? Can we distinguish between the creativity of the material and our own creativity? Finally, has teacher education moved to represent and reflect those changes? Well, as we are getting closer to the end, what I would like to notice is that in the next 50 years, or perhaps the 22nd century, we need to see how teacher education can change. In general, we tend to put the cart before the horse. We tend to see the change, apply it in education, and then transfer it in teacher education. We need to educate teachers in a way they can absorb technology and create new technology and new miracles of technology within their learning space and teaching space. We should stop associating education with where teachers are studying, because right now we live the age of transformation and mobility. Therefore, people will study in one place, work in another, and we have no idea what technology is going to look like in the 25th century, the 22nd century. All we need to care and train our teachers is how those transformational changes can be the core of education. Therefore, we need to prepare teachers for technology in education, but at the same time, we need to be able to teach without technology. We need to be able to see students without screens in front of them and ensure that there's communication between teachers and between learners at the same time. My closing thoughts. It's too late to turn the clock back, and personally, I wouldn't like to turn the clock back. But I would like to say that classrooms become creative spaces for learning and teaching, not because they are equipped with the latest technology, but because we have passionate teachers who keep inspiring the human brain. They keep motivating the human soul. They understand the material, the technology they use. They understand what learning entails and how different human beings learn in different conditions. Mainly, they understand the changes and the history, not only of ELT, but the history of teaching and learning as it has transformed over a period of time. Therefore, we don't need better apps. We don't need more technology. It will come. It is, let's say, part of who we have become. Now it's being set on its own and it's running ahead of us. But at the same time, we need to remember that those apps and those websites are created by human beings, and classrooms become meaningful learning spaces because of who teachers are. Therefore, I do not want to think of lesson planning software, but I want to think of teachers who can survive and master technology, and at the same time, they can very well switch off the whiteboard, switch off the computer, and communicate with their students. Thank you so much. Best of luck to your conference, and best of luck to your teaching and your creative endeavors. Thank you for the invitation.
Thanks, Rob. Thank you very much for inviting me. I'm really happy to be with you with Tissot Kuwait, and I'm very excited to be doing EFL talks. I'm going to be talking to you today about the blogosphere and research that I conducted with teenage language learners in Greece. And I'll be sharing some initial findings with you and some information on how teachers could integrate the blogosphere into their language teaching. So welcome to the blogosphere. My name is Christina Janikis, and here we go. So what is the blog? The blog is mainly an online journal. It resembles an online journal. One can create an account, write about different topics, their feelings, their experiences, and update their blog as often as they like. Ward had said that teachers nowadays attempt to integrate blogging into their practice since it is thought to improve students' literacy and take their creativity to another level. And I agree with this, and this is something that makes a lot of sense in language learning as well. We do encourage our students to be creative, and it's a very interesting format that students can relate to because they have such knowledge of technology, and it's interesting to transfer pen and paper to the computer screen. And the results are, as you will see, the results are quite interesting and very positive. There are quite a few benefits to blogging. It supports multimodality, which means that it supports a combination of communication practices, which is very important in English language teaching. It escapes traditional approaches to writing and reading, something that students do continuously and might need some change. Students can express themselves creatively, not only through their writing, but they can also use images, they can use clips, something that they can't really do in pen and paper. They can share ideas with others because it's not only about writing what you need to write on your blog, but you also invite comments from other people. And with certain platforms now, you can invite comments from your peers if you're a student, and other students can give feedback. So they share ideas and they learn how to accept new forms of feedback and become and give feedback in a constructive manner. Students are given the opportunity to raise their own awareness of having authorship, readership, and ownership of what it is that they're writing, what it is they're creating online, and sharing with other people. So how to integrate blogs in ELT? It's quite simple, but there needs to be a good plan in how to do it if you haven't done it before, and if your students aren't familiar with blogging especially. So you need to plan and start early, because this there is a learning curve for your students, and students need to become aware and practice how to use blogs, and become familiar with the platform and what is expected of them whilst writing and sharing information and providing feedback to others. There needs to be a purpose for their writing, what it is they're writing about. It could be discussions, it could be reflections, they could be writing about, they could be writing essays or stories, they could be sharing information, commentary. So there needs to be a clear purpose in blog writing or any kind of writing, really. And it's important for the teacher to do some research and find the blogosphere that they feel is more, they are more comfortable in using, and become familiar with this platform before they introduce it to their students. It's important for them to be able to know the different features that a blog has, and how this could affect their students' literacy and help them in their writing. So the research that we conducted, as I previously said, it was in Greece, and the findings were quite interesting and somewhat surprising at the beginning as well. We had 52 students who participated, 52 teenagers, and the focus of the study was literacy, L2 literacy. And the chosen platform was EduBlogs, because this was what the teachers selected, actually, and what they felt most comfortable with. EduBlogs provides a kind of classroom-like platform, and only students could see, the students who were registered in EduBlogs could see each other's work and comment on each other's work, and the teacher as well. So it wasn't free to the public. They felt a bit safer with EduBlogs. And the writing activities had the form of in-class assignments and homework, and was always related to the curriculum the students had. So literacy through blogging, the tasks specifically were reflections, short essays, and commentary, which the students offered guidance to each other. We also provided this for the students because they were a bit reluctant in giving feedback, and they were even more scared of receiving feedback from their peers. So we had to explained to them that it wasn't going to be criticism, but it was going to be constructive feedback, only about their writing. And the only way to do this was to also train them in a way of how to give feedback to each other. So one thing that we wanted them to do was to write in the form of a letter, so give a greeting and be careful of the content in the closing. They should always use correct spelling, punctuation, grammar, and spacing, although they were a bit disappointed in this because they thought that they would only have to be careful about their language when they were writing essays. So, but we wanted them to practice their language as well, so it only made sense. They needed to also compliment the writer, give some positive feedback, especially in the beginning, write a relevant comment that was related to the post, and not reveal any personal information about themselves in the comment, because that was not what it was about. It was about giving constructive feedback, and always read over the comment and edit before submitting. So the students' reactions was quite interesting to see, because in the beginning the students were very reluctant to share their work with the peers. They had no problem submitting their work to their teacher, but having an audience was a bit scary for them. So 40% did not attempt to complete their first assignment. Only 10% of the students who did complete their first assignment gave feedback and started a conversation. So we needed to either end the research and forget about using blogs, or try to prompt students to participate more and see this from a more positive scope. So we started giving rewards to students who successfully completed their assignments and became more interactive on blogs. And this worked. So slowly but surely, students stepped out of their comfort zone. And within 4 weeks of reward giving, there was 100% of participation. Within 5 months of the project, there was an average of 20% improvement in students' writing. And this was compared to the essays that students wrote on paper. So we compared the two forms of writing delivery. So there was a 20% improvement within the 5 months of blogging. And within 7 months of the project, the students provided each other with feedback and had lengthy discussions online and what they could do to advance their writing. So they were more comfortable within the 7 months to give feedback to each other and try to guide each other and share information on their work. And there's there are more details in the upcoming publication I have here, Enhancing Literacy and Collaborative Skills Through Blogging, which is expected to be published in mid-March. So basically, what the study showed was that blogging had a lot of positive aspects in students' literacy. It helped them share. It helped them share their ideas. It helped them share their work, their language learning, and their experience. It helped them connect on a different level. They weren't just inside a classroom anymore. They could communicate with each other in a very different form, and everyone could communicate with everyone. They became more creative. They wanted to work more and give a more colorful note to their writing, and it helped them inspire each other as well. And that's what the whole process and the whole project was about. Thank you very much. I would love to hear from you if you have any questions or anything to share about blogging. You can contact me via my website, which is on the bottom of the slide. Thank you very much.
Hello and welcome to my EFL talk on about online collaboration with focus on real-time synchronous communication via the internet. My name is Heike Philp. I'm not based in Paris. No, this is just my behind. I'm based in Brussels, and yes, I've been involved in creating teacher training courses since about 2004, with the focus on let's talk online. So online real-time conversations. Now, why is that so pertinent now, today, these days? Because our language learners are experiencing this kind of communication in their companies. And I would like to also give the English teachers some 5 tips on how to learn to master this challenge of helping our learners to cope with this. And cope with what? Well, webinars and online meetings. They are becoming increasingly a norm in company. They're used for training purposes, but also for sales and marketing, but also for online meetings with departments, you know. And when you have to present your latest figures or PowerPoint presentation, and you have to watch your webcam as well as any technical issues arising, on top of that, being aware that whatever you say is being recorded for permanent record, that can be a daunting task. And it used to be phone English, which was sometimes the most challenging out of all, but today it is exactly that, what we're looking at, video conferencing systems. And if you're looking at how youngsters, the so-called Generation Y, is interacting and communicating these days, you'll find that they do also communicate a lot in real time. They tend to use Discord whilst performing tasks in their video games. And if you think of just looking at a PowerPoint is bad enough, then challenge yourself with the idea of they have to communicate and perform tasks. They have to think, they have to collaborate, they have to perhaps even design and solve puzzles, you know, problem solving. Hugely difficult when it comes to communication in these environments. Another challenge, or not challenge, but has become a norm for people to socially interact online. And whilst it's still not practiced all that much, if you think of how popular WhatsApp and Facebook groups are, or forum posts, wikis together for online collaboration, this is how Facebook imagines the future of social interaction to be, namely real-time 3D environments, avatars, and playing a game. And it reflects really nicely the trend these days of the kids. Think about how many of the kids are playing in Minecraft, 120 million. How many have started playing Fortnite and it's only been around a year and a half? Guess what? 200 million players, and many of them being highly addicted. So what can we now as teachers do to help our business English students, as well as think about what's coming up with our young learners, and how can we prepare ourselves? Here are 5 steps. First one is learn, attend webinars, play video games, and talk to Alexa and co. This might sound too simple, but just imagine how many English teachers know about the EFL webinars at any given time. 200 to 300 to maybe 400, if all goes well, turn up, and yet some 100,000 English teachers know about them. And it's not that many recording views, to be honest. It is the fact that still webinar attendance for some of us is quite normal, and we tend to be in many webinars, but so many have never entered one of these virtual rooms. The next step, if you want to do more, is teach online. Present a webinar, Zoom, Skype for Business, Skype, GoToMeeting, WizIQ. It's just there are a number of solutions around. Zoom, for example, is free of charge for the one-to-one, and it is for groups, it's free for up to 40 minutes. It's a fantastic video conferencing platform that's been around only a short while, and I can highly recommend using it. So start teaching online, even if you start with friends and neighbors and get it, yeah. The next step, and here's the number 3, is to level up. What could you do next? Moderate. Moderate means invite an expert at a distance, for example. Invite learners into a video game providing clear instructions. This is where the next challenge is, yeah. And invite learners and learn software English. It's interesting that this is one of the disciplines I find is lacking most when I hear people, when I hear teachers helping others online, and you just have to know how to call. Is it a cogwheel? Is it the options button? Is it is it the 3 dots? Is it the few lines? Is it the arrow, or is it the triangle? There's certain rules to software English, and it's best to really listen to well-known presenters online. Here is then when you challenge yourself even a bit more. Blend and flip, choose a learning management system or perhaps a community for your learners. Create an online teaching material and create perhaps walkthroughs and how-to tutorials. Although I would say this is almost part of the moderation challenge that you could then sort of start learning is how to explain somebody to how to enter Moodle, and what to do then, how to, just how to tutorials. Great exercise into the flipped classroom area, and you will find that explaining software or tools to your learners is very beneficial for them. It's also beneficial for yourself. So here's step number 5, facilitate. Run online workshops, and to be honest, even with the amount of experience I've had over 15 years in a virtual classroom environment like this video conferencing, I still find these hugely challenging. Use breakout rooms, get your learners, get them to collaborate, create immersive experiences, Design and escape the classroom experience with quests and stories. This is a challenge that I've been involved in through running the Evo session, Escape the Classroom. Freely available as from Sunday. You'll find there's a beautiful Google Classroom around with lots of tips by lots of teachers on how to create quest stories in order to create and escape the classroom experience, online as well as offline. These were my 5 tips on how to level yourself or train yourself, level yourself up in the direction of helping not only to facilitate online collaboration, but also to collaborate with your colleagues and other English teachers around the world in order to enjoy that fellow, this kind of communication. Just about myself, my company is based in Brussels. It's called Let's Talk Online, so I've been involved with that for quite some time. And I've been able to initiate 4 year-funded projects when teacher training courses were developed on how to teach in virtual environments. And this is a little bit sort of also the kind of courses I'm running at the moment, how to teach online.
Hello, my name is Mark Zaldivar, and I am currently the Director of Curriculum and Assessment for NLI at Virginia Tech. NLI stands for the Network Learning Initiatives, which is our professional development unit within the Division of IT. In one of my previous jobs, I helped to support ePortfolio development across the institution at Virginia Tech. So today I'd like to talk to you about ePortfolios as a catalyst for learning from student to institution. I want to talk a little bit about how research around ePortfolios shows that when you add them into the mix of already rich educational experiences, you catalyze learning in some pretty significant ways for both students and faculty in the institution.
Never knowing where to begin with this topic, I'd like to take us way back, long before the internet and digital work became ubiquitous in education. Portfolios have been seen as a powerful assessment tool in educational contexts for decades. This passage from the NEA is one of my favorite classic definitions, as it points out what are, for me, key elements of an ePortfolio. 1. A student's choice of work. 2. Clearly established criteria for assessment. And 3. An important role for student reflection within the portfolio. In most of my own portfolio development, these were always important design considerations. Central questions included: what work would the student include? Can the student choose the work freely, or are they being told what to put in exactly? Are they aware of the evaluation criteria? Are they able to tell you what they learned from the project? Projects that favored student choice, that created a strong role for the student's reflective voice, were often the most successful projects. Curating a collection of work products alongside a narrative about the learning that occurred created a powerful object for assessment. Typically, these were bound notebooks or early websites with work displayed. But as the digital environment evolved, so did the concept of portfolios, until this definition in my mind doesn't quite fit. So ultimately, for me, ePortfolio isn't really a thing, it's something that we do. It's a process, a way of thinking, and a way of practicing that discipline of thinking. Seeing outcomes like these as actions and a series of interactions around a learning experience changes my personal notion of ePortfolio. Parts of ePortfolios are certainly objects: websites, images, video, text, presentations, and PDFs. But what really makes an ePortfolio a powerful transformational tool is its ability to do things. If we look at this simple chart of ePortfolio processes, we can see how many learning actions are really encompassed in the ePortfolio process. Though the outcome may be a website or bound notebook, the process of creating the portfolio, and most importantly, the assessment processes around that portfolio, is where the real catalyzing learning happens. And a catalyst is a powerful metaphor for ePortfolios. This catalyst model was the result of a 3-year U.S. federal grant, where we gathered 25 institutions together to explore implementation challenges and models, successes and failures, over a 3-year period. I was lucky enough to be with a group of fellow Virginia Tech colleagues to represent VT in this effort. This model works very well as a process definition. It centers on the agents who will be using the portfolio: students and faculty, departments and programs, institutions. Surrounding the model are 3 key processes that seem to inform all effective ePortfolio practice: inquiry, or the ability to ask and pursue answers to good questions; reflection, or the ability to process deeply; and integration, or the ability to tie different experiences and ideas together into an effective learning network. There are 5 major arenas of play that, when in place, make programs most successful. Ultimately, as a catalyst metaphor, the notion is that ePortfolios go a long way to enhancing already effective educational practices. When placed in conjunction with other high-impact practices and effective instruction, ePortfolio approaches show a greatly enhanced learning experience for students. Catalysts enhance change, and change is the very definition of learning. One example of this change on the institutional level is what Randy Bass of Georgetown University describes as a rise of social pedagogies in higher education. These are pedagogies that place authentic experiences at the center of the curriculum, and where the learning is done through social interaction, often with professionals in the field of practice or with peers in learning groups. A common example of this is a capstone course, where students often work in teams or to build real-world projects that are appropriate to their disciplines. Or service learning courses, where students contribute their intellectual and physical work to improving local communities. In these examples, the learning is not simply measured with a multiple-choice exam or with a research paper. The whole notion of assessment of learning, of how we provide feedback to the student to encourage learning, and of how the instructor and the institution learn and improve the curriculum based upon the student's work. That changes into something richer, more useful, and more pertinent to both the students and the institution when an e-portfolio is added. Consider how e-portfolios embody a social pedagogy approach. In an e-portfolio, students are literally being asked to construct a representation of their learning, often being encouraged to include prior learning experiences and extracurricular and non-disciplinary interests. In arranging artifacts, such as writing samples, presentations, and other work, alongside reflections, they are weaving a strong narrative about their own learning paths. Then, instructors, in being able to assess those individual students, have a much richer set of learning data to draw from, especially for more complex, authentic situations. In those situations, outcomes such as leadership, teamwork, and critical decision-making become important and are much more visible through portfolio work, rather than typical tests and essays. Finally, as the institution gathers more and more of this portfolio-based evidence, programs and colleges are able to see the nuances of their own students and their interaction with the curriculum. And it all begins by having the students be involved in assessment and engaged with their learning. Here's just one example of the kind of research data that the Catalyst grant was able to capture. This particular graph demonstrates that the e-portfolio is far beyond an object. It is itself a site of learning. When e-portfolios have low peer-to-peer interaction, in other words, when the instructor and the student are the only people to see the portfolio, only about 30% of the respondents indicate that the portfolio was useful in thinking deeply about their work, or making them more aware of their learning and development, or helping them make connections in their studies. However, when you allow students to share their portfolios with other students, when it becomes a social component of the curriculum, and students regularly are asked to share their own research and reflections, the results more than doubled to the 80% range or above. This tells me that students want to tell their stories of learning to each other, and that e-portfolios, when designed and implemented well, help them do that. Here's a quote from Crystal Beach, voicing this idea as a student. For her, the e-portfolio space was where she tied it all together. The practice and the research, the pedagogy and the experiences in the classroom. The e-portfolio she created became a realm, which seems so much grander of a word than space. It becomes a realm of learning, reflecting, and applying. And that's what makes e-portfolios such a powerful catalyst for learning. Ultimately, portfolios, like any good pedagogical approach, become a balancing act between the instruction the teacher puts forth, the learning that the student does, and the assessment that provides feedback and growth to the whole system. If we build quality programs around the portfolio process, we can make new kinds of learning visible. E-portfolios become the site of that learning and knowledge, rather than just a dumping ground or filing cabinet for work at the end of the process. E-portfolios can make student learning visible to the faculty in the institution. Likewise, they also reveal institutional criteria and priorities to students, making the assessment itself more visible and productive for everyone. And finally, if done correctly, e-portfolios encourage deep learning skills, ones that we hope develop in all learners, and that, if handled correctly, become visible sources of learning data for everyone. That data tells our shared learning story.
Thank you again for letting me present today. This, of course, is a big topic to cover in 10 minutes, and so I thought I'd provide you with a few extra resources to close things out. The top 3 links are related to the Catalyst for Learning research sites. The top 2 are recent books that were published that cover both case studies and the theory of the Catalyst for e-portfolios. And the third one is the Catalyst for Learning website itself, which has many of the case studies, research, and information available to you for all of the 25 participating institutions. The bottom 3 sites here are worldwide ePortfolio organizations. I know we all draw from these on almost a daily basis as we look for peers that are working on portfolios, as well as current resources and conferences that are available for us to share our stories. Thank you again, and I hope you join us on the road to ePortfolios. Have a good day.
Hello, my name is Aaron Bond. I am coming to you from Virginia Tech, which is in Blacksburg, Virginia. I work in faculty professional development here at Virginia Tech and teach in the School of Education and the School of Communication department. Today we'll be discussing effective design and delivery for learning. We'll frame this in a very easy to follow, easy to use instructional framework based on Gagne's 9 events of instruction. Robert Gagne was a seminal thinker in instructional design, instructional theory, and educational psychology. He is thought to have bridged behaviorist and cognitivist theories in his instructional framework. As you can see, there are 9 events of instruction. First, we need to gain the student's attention. Second, we need to let our students know what are the instructional objectives for what they are getting ready to learn. Then we need to stimulate recall and prior learning. Now, while I'm saying these 1, 2, 3, 4, it doesn't mean that you actually do these in that order. We just need to make sure that we include all of these instructions in order to follow Gagne's prescription. You would present your content, provide guidance, elicit performance, provide feedback, assess performance, and enhance retention and feedback. We'll take a look at each of these and their importance in instruction and design over the next few slides. One of the first things that we can do in instruction is to gain student attention. By doing this, we're ensuring that learners are ready to learn and they're ready to participate in activities, and it's our job to provide the stimulus to gain that attention. We can do that through demonstration, we can add a little comedy, we can tell a joke, we can use case studies to present a real problem to be solved. We can tell a story. An example of that would be me telling you a story about my time as a K-12 instructor or as a higher ed instructor here at Virginia Tech. It would stimulate the prior knowledge that you have around teaching and learning while gaining your attention. We can have a debate. We can do some brainstorming. We can introduce a poll, use graphics, images, or video. One of my favorite things to do in my classes is to use a video to set the stage for what we're about to learn. Gagne says it's also important to inform the learner of what they're about to learn. In your objective, you should describe the goal of the lesson, state what the learners will be able to accomplish, how they'll be able to transfer the knowledge to their own interest, and how they will be assessed on what it is that you want them to learn. The more mature a student, the more important informing them of what they're about to learn becomes. Stimulate prior recall is a very important part of the learning process. We all come to a learning experience with prior knowledge about a particular subject or topic. What you know can help or hinder what you're about to learn. If you have inaccurate knowledge or inaccurate prior knowledge about a particular topic, that can hinder you from learning the truth about what it is we're about to learn. If you have good prior knowledge, that can help you connect new content with the content that you already have stored in your memory. By stimulating the prior recall, we're helping participants make sense of the new information by relating it to something they know. You can ask questions about previous experiences. You can ask your participants, whether they're students or faculty, about the understanding of previous concepts. I work in faculty development here at Virginia Tech, and working with adults in NLI, the program that I work in, that looks very different. We have faculty from all over the world participating in learning experiences. Some come with extensive teaching experience, some come with very little. And so it's very important that I have an understanding of who my students are so that I can help stimulate the prior knowledge or help mitigate the prior knowledge that they do not have or the incorrect information that they might have. After we've introduced the student to what they're going to learn, we've gained their attention, we've stimulated prior knowledge, now it's time to present the content. It's very important to think meaningfully about how you organize the content that you are providing. You use strategies to present and cue lesson content in a more efficient way. By organizing and chunking your content in manageable chunks, you will make sure that your students are getting the information they need in a way that they can digest it and in a way that they can move content from the working memory to the short-term memory to the long-term memory. And it's important that we find ways to do that. If in my situation, I work with faculty here at the university, an NLI presentation would look very different than a K-12 presentation, than a higher ed student presentation. And so you have to think about who your audience is and then build the content appropriately. Related to how that we chunk our content is the way that we give students the tools they need to get the information from back out of long-term memory when they need it. Sensory memory, or the visual auditory memory, the things that we hear and see, will not go to short-term memory unless we spend some time practicing it. And from rehearsal and chunking, we will also get it to long-term memory. How that we encode that information, how that we give our self-retrieval cues is an important part of the learning process. It's important to also consider cognitive load. The maximum number of chunks of information that a person can process in working memory at any time is very limited. George Miller said that it was 7 plus or minus 2. More recent research says that it's actually 5 plus or minus 2. You could actually think of this in terms of how many numbers that are in a typical phone number. We can only memorize or hold so much information. To demonstrate cognitive load and the importance of taking cognitive load into account when you're designing presentations or instructions, let's do this exercise. 12 plus 13, that's pretty easy. We can do that in our brain. What our brain, our working memory can do is very quickly associate 12 plus 13 is 25. It's much more difficult for us to process the next number. That number is 83,468,437 plus 93,849,040. My brain can't do that. There are people who can. My brain cannot take those two numbers and work with them in the working memory, at least not in a very easy way. Consider the following. Take just about 10 seconds to memorize these letters. Did you get it? Do you have those? What were they? Now consider the same letters organized in a different way. Your brain might have actually done this automatically. Your brain may, because the brain looks for patterns, it may have actually bunched these things into a pattern for you. Now try to remember. What those exercises demonstrate is how important it is to chunk and give information in manageable doses for your students. After you have given your students direct instruction, they need to have some guidance, some practice with the material in which you guide the practice. You can advise participants of the strategies to aid them in learning content. How do you provide guidance currently? Think through that. After you've guided them through some practice, then it's time for the students to do some performance of their own. It's an opportunity to respond, to perform, to show demonstration of what it is that you've taught them. Think about examples of hands-on activities. What are some ways that your students can get in and manipulate the new content that you provided? Feedback is a very important part of the process as well. the instructional process is not complete if our students are not aware of corrections they need to make or if they're not aware of what they're doing well. How do you provide feedback to your participants? Finally, assess learning. You've given your students the content, you've given them guided practice, you've given the student, your participant, hands-on activities, you've given back feedback. Now it's time to assess whether students learn. We can use test quizzes, but if we don't use tests or quizzes, how might we do that in a more authentic way? Think through an authentic way to assess whether students have learned the new material. At the end of the instructional activity, make sure that you have provided context for learners to practice in that are transferable, so the skills that they have gotten from your instruction they can transfer to many different situations and problems. And you can help provide recall and retention by giving takeaways or recall aids to help your participants once the workshop or the instructional activity is finished. This is my presentation, and I appreciate your attention throughout the last 10 minutes. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me.
It's just not the same watching the video, is it? I don't know. We don't have time, so there's more. The funny thing was, I saw some of you holding up your cameras and filming. Why? They'll be online next week. That's the idea, is speakers can be anywhere, listeners can be anywhere, learners can be anywhere. You just need the internet. You can listen anytime you want. If it's not important to you for subject matter, you don't have to listen. If it is, listen. So, what do you think? Great. Oh, come on, I came all this way.
You deserve it.
Well, I want to thank you. I really didn't think I was going to talk for more than like 5 minutes and that we would have a wonderful live show and we would have sound and everything else. I apologize. I appreciate your patience with sticking with it and listening. I will put all of the recordings up on the site so they will be available after I get home. So probably next week you can see all the videos, okay? And I hope you join. And if you have any questions, send me a message. Yes, question.
My question here, I saw people presenting some theoretical background about the stuff you're talking about. The question is, do you allow them to read from a paper? Because maybe they are reading, they are not presented live, or it doesn't matter. Maybe they're reading from a book. So how can you guarantee?
Well, some people read from scripts. I recommend you don't.
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
You never know. We had the BSIC conference in Romania a few months ago. There was a speaker there that I was dying to hear because I read her stuff over the years, and I was so excited. And I talked to her, and she's dynamic and outgoing. And what did she do? Well, let me tell you about my reason. For an
It can
hour,
be boring,
she read
yeah?
the entire thing from a script.
Yeah. So do you have like some conditions? You put some
I've told people
guidelines?
not to do it. Yeah, they do. There are still some that do it. It's especially these people that are into heavy research, I find, tend to be the ones that read, or the heavy academics.
What about the originality of the content itself? Because you want to make it original, or it's not the matter?
I would love it to be original with your original ideas. Of course, you know, it's not your original idea to use scaffolding in the classroom, but maybe you have an original idea of how to use it. That's what I want to hear about.
Okay.
And some of it is just going to be telling you things that for us is obvious. But remember, there's people out there that don't know. When everybody here knows what scaffolding is. Everybody had a class on scaffolding, probably a lot more than one class on scaffolding. So to hear a third-year student in university never heard of it, and I've heard this quite often, actually, with scaffolding in particular, was very surprising and very concerning to me. So this is it.
Yeah. So it's an open atmosphere, everyone can present, and the audience can choose what they like.
That's it. If you don't want to watch it, if you're not interested, don't watch it. And you'll see that. It's you'll see some of the videos, they watched maybe 50, 100 times. Some of them like mine, a couple thousand. But, you know, people go for what's popular and what they need. And that's what I want. It's like a dictionary. How many words in the dictionary did you never look at? And how many did you? It's there when you need it. And that's the whole idea. And I want to be able to provide all of that. So I hope you will help. And next time when I'm here on stage, it's going to be introducing you to stand up here and do 5 minutes. Agreed?
Yes.
You all in?
Okay.
Great. So, really, I apologize for the technical problems. I apologize for the change of date. I apologize for everything. But I'm very happy that you're all here. And thank you.
We'd like to thank him for his enjoyable session. I hate mics and I hate to speak to audience. I feel shy. Yeah, I have to speak. So thank you very much. We really enjoyed your session. And we have to apologize for the technical problems. Today was a bad luck. From morning, since morning we are suffering with technology. So hope to see each other tomorrow.
It's a great audience, and that's all that matters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.